Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Serge, and welcome to another episode of Search for the Truth. And today I have the pleasure again to have my good friend Dr. Bob with us. Welcome again.
Well, you know what? Happy, beautiful, amazing day. And thank you for surging for the truth. You know, we're partners in that wonderful mission. And, let's share. The world needs us.
Yeah, like you said, there's so many people out there who need some hope and help with their health. So how have you been?
Epic. When you look at it, I've told people for years that health, happiness, success, right? We tend to think of health as being really complex. It's really not. It's pretty simple as long as you know the secret. By the way, same with happiness and success. And part of that happiness might just be, avoiding false, disempowering information.
Yeah. Oh, you have a really good point here because we are so confused. And it was so funny to me on Monday, right? We had this big blackout, social media went off. We didn't have this access to some platforms. And people got really anxious and upset and angry, and they didn't know what to do with their life. I think we need to go back to basic.
Well, I'll tell you what, when we talk about metabolism, sometimes we talk about metabolic degrees of freedom, where you can fast for an extended period of time, where you have freedom with food because you have a healthy digestive system and you've made enough really good choices. And if something goes awry and you have to get a little more flexible in what you do, you can do it without any issue. One of my great mentors, John DeMartini, likes to say, if you don't fill your day with high priority actions, they'll fill with low priority distractions. And, I think there's a lot of people that have felt painted into a corner where their access to the world is this screen. And we need to change that. Get outside, breathe, exercise. Best way to have happy or be happy is to give happy. So find a way to make somebody happy. Be of service.
I mean, I was reading about this actually a little while ago because I was concerned about myself. I spent some time at home before going to bed, my phone. And kids today, teenagers, we spend somewhere between 6 and 10 hours a day or something like that in front of a screen. That's horrible. I don't see how people can be happy and healthy to do this.
Well, and we know they're not. I mean, if you want to look at that, I looked at the statistics and I was shocked that only 82% of people reported the last, year and a half as being profoundly stressful. That means 18% didn't. And I'm glad that you and I are in that category. I don't know that that number's that high. It might have been a selective audience, but if all you're doing is sitting around immersing yourself in bad news, that's a formula for misery.
It is, and that's what I realized for myself. So I started to cut out my time at night. I don't use my phone anymore. All of a sudden, I have more time to spend with my kids, my wife. I go outside, I swim, I do things that I didn't believe I could do because I have more time. Unbelievable.
Well, Dr. Serge, you might have seen this in some of our exchanges. I am 99% away from email. I made that decision a few years ago. I realized that email, several hundred emails a day, most of them absolutely worthless, were taking 2 hours a day of my time. And I said, all right, that's a low priority distraction. Let me then add 2 hours of high priority actions a day, to build health, happiness, success. And I've got to tell you, it's made for a wonderful advancements in all areas of life. And I encourage it.
It's amazing. A small difference like that can really impact our health for the best. And you keep talking about happiness. And it reminds me of a video that I was watching on YouTube at some point on the blue zone. And I was surprised actually because blue zone is diet, it's food, it's what do they eat to be healthy and live to 100, 110, 120 years old. But the guy was saying that the diet had nothing to do with the life expectancy. What they found in common was the level of happiness and the way that they belong to a community of people who have similar, I said passions, I guess, in life. So happiness seems to be the fundamental key for health.
Well, it'll certainly make life better no matter how you slice it. Would you rather be happy or unhappy? And think about it. Do you make better choices when you're happy or unhappy? All that goes together. But Dr. Serge, I'll tell you, I was actually in the front row of the TED Talk when Dan Buettner presented the Blue Zones. He's the guy that worked with National Geographic. So it wasn't that diet was unimportant, because it
No.
was. All the
Yeah.
Blue Zones actually ate a much more natural diet,
Yeah.
predominantly plant-based. But the thing that really got them going was having a purpose and having loving relationships with their family and beyond. And really, that was the final line in that TED Talk. You know, he says, our friends, our life's adventure, and we want to make good choices there because we're likely to do what our friends do. So choose wisely.
So how can we have a purpose in this madness? A lot of people, I mean, I know you see that yourself on your side. A lot of people get confused. They have been confused since the beginning of the pandemic. They don't know what to do anymore. They lost their job. They work at home. They feel lonely. They feel they don't have any worth anymore. So how can we bring back this purpose and sense of living in our lives?
Well, you know, I'll go to the root word of something that's deserve. And when you look at day, you know, from the either Latin or Greek, whatever it is, it means from, and serve from service. We deserve from service. And oddly enough, it was attributed to Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay. In an interview, he said, service is the rent we pay for our time here on earth. So Zig Ziglar said, we can have everything in life we want if we help enough other people get what they want. Everybody out there has an accelerated opportunity to serve. Yeah. You know, you might just approach people and say, I want to make the world better. I've got extra time. Is there anything you need? Maybe I could provide it. Maybe as I ask other people, I can create a community of people that can provide it. And, you know, I think if we ask the right question, people would say, what really is going on? What's the truth about what's happening? And not even getting there because of censorship, we might just say, well, here's what we know. If you're really, really healthy, this is not a problem for you. And that's in every demographic. I don't care if you're 90 and really, really healthy. This hasn't been a problem. Unless, of course, you went to the hospital, because they're suggesting that many of the deaths were due to, you know, experts are saying medical malpractice, giving ineffective remedies, doing things that, you know, they could say they learned the hard way, but they didn't seem to learn, make the problem worse.
Yeah. No, you're right. And when it comes to service others, I think it's so important, right? It's free, and it does really bring a sense of helping. And I mean, we live in Houston, right? A few years ago, we had Harvey, and I've seen it with my friends, my patients. People all of a sudden had this sense of solidarity, and they started helping each other, and really brought us together. And I think we need to do this more often. Again, we go back to our lives. We forget to do that. I think that's the foundation of being happy and healthy.
It is. And it'd be wonderful if we had leaders that wanted to create solidarity. You know, it's been said that the ultimate value is freedom. And so, hey, you know what? I trust your judgment when it comes to health. And we're having this conversation because you trust mine. And you know what? Everybody in my patient base that's done a natural protocol has recovered without any complication from the virus. And they have essentially what appears to be lifetime immunity. So how can we beat that? You know, health wins the day.
Exactly. At the end of the day, nature always wins. And you talk about freedom, right? I think that's one of the major stress that I see in people's life right now. I mean, every day I have people coming to me and say, what should I do? What should I do? If I don't do this, I'm going to lose my job. And, you know, and some of them work for big companies, good income, they have family, they have kids. So our freedom right now has been restricted more and more and more and more. So how can we deal with that? It's really hard for a lot of people.
You know, I believe our founding fathers had a phrase. They said, either we hang together or surely we will hang separately. So imagine if everybody stepped up and said, you know what? We're not going to support any business that takes away freedom. We're just not going to do it. And so, you know, then businesses can advertise. I don't take away freedom. And then suddenly they're all going to feel the errors of their ways if we stand together. But it's fascinating that you can't get a unified voice because freedom of speech was taken away. Freedom of choice was taken away from far too many people. And last I checked, this country was founded on freedom and became the greatest country in the world because of freedom.
Yeah. And then,
I thought I put that on. Sorry, I thought I put that on Do Not Disturb. My phone went off, so I'm going to fix that now.
That's okay. And this is one of the things I don't really get. I don't really wrap my mind around this, is why people are not coming together. I mean, I look at other countries, right? I'm from Canada. And in Canada, in BC, on the west side of Canada, they build those camps when they quarantine people for a week or two if you had infection. And same thing in Australia. And now we have reports coming from this country that they have those camps as well. So it blows my mind. I just don't comprehend why people are not coming together to fight this tyranny. Otherwise, we're going to end up one day, we're going to wake up saying, man, we have no freedom anymore.
Well, you see it, I see it. Any thinking man or woman, I believe, does see it too.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
You know, are you responsible enough to take care of yourself and your family? You know, and so I listened to an interesting song, and it said a true pandemic doesn't need to be advertised. Mm-hmm. And then there was like a Twilight Zone heading with Rod Serling, you know, way back when. He says, imagine a virus so deadly that you have to be tested repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly to figure out if you have it, you know, and so I don't want to downplay that it's bad for people that have whatever their 2.4 major medical comorbidities.
Yes.
But I was the guy that was on Facebook Live saying, now's the time to get healthy. Now's the time to eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right. And I know you were too.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's be a little bit more positive now, because I like this, actually this transition. You know, I was listening to Dr. Shiva. I'm sure you know him, a big guy. He's really big in Massachusetts. I think he ran for senator, I believe, for the Senate last time. Anyway, I was watching one of his videos, and I didn't realize that he did actually a PhD thesis on the immune system. And he was breaking down the immune system, you know, the cellular immunity, the innate immunity. And then he said that these two components are just the basic. There's a lot more components to it. And now I started talking about the interference system, about the gut, which is connected, the nervous system, the hormones. So, and then he said, that was the intriguing part to me. He said that currently our medical treatment is 70, 80 years old. It's not based on science. The injections that they do on people, it's 70 years old. It's not based on the current science. So can you help us to understand what is the immune system, these different components, and more importantly, what we need to do to strengthen and support our body to fight those viruses, those pathogens, because it has been part of our lives for thousands of years.
Well, the immune system, you're right, has been what has kept us around for all of humanity, however long that goes back. Some say 100,000 years, but whatever that time period is, we wouldn't be here without an immune system.
Yeah.
But also, it was learned very early on that my immune system could not only protect me, it could protect other people. And so the very first Nobel Prize in medicine somewhere in the early 1900s was on something called convalescent plasma. Plasma is the fluid part of blood. So there was a very bad flu going around in the early 1900s, and a doctor got the idea, what if I drew blood, pulled out the red cells, white cells, and platelets? What if I just took the liquid part and put it back in somebody? And back then, 1902, 80% cure rate. Now, there were studies published March of 2020, where a doctor said convalescent plasma worked when there was no cure. New England Journal of Medicine, Proceeds National Academy of Science, 100% cure rate. 100%. Now, these were small studies, but then you could see the solution is healthy people get it, and they share their immune system with the sickest people that need it. But instead, what was happened? Quarantine the healthy, don't get it. Otherwise, there will be a cure. Remember, they wanted to flatten the curve for 2 weeks. Well,
Yeah.
we're on 2 years.
Yeah.
And what they're finding is when they've compromised people's immune system artificially, they're getting a lot more of these cases. And many of them are dying from the experimental gene therapy itself. And certainly it hasn't proven effective against preventing the viral infection.
So what is in that plasma that cures the virus? Is it the antibodies that the body makes, the white blood cells? What's the actual component?
I bet it'll take a lot more time to figure that out. But here's what I can tell you. Some type of immune memory that's transferable from one person to the next. That's the best answer that I can give you. And again, over 100 years of human clinical trial with very bad viruses showed it worked. I don't know who did it first. Maybe someone said, I've got a family member, doesn't appear we have anything. I wonder if this would work. And then they did the studies. Oh, and it worked 100% of the time. Small studies, but 100%, that's pretty significant. 100 years of research, that's pretty significant.
That's amazing. And it's frustrating as well because we've had a cure and there's other modalities that you can use to help the body and nothing
there are
is
many.
done.
There are many. If people wanted to look up Dr. Peter McCullough, his goal was prevent hospitalization. He says there's so many things you could do beforehand, whether you're talking about vitamin D, zinc, vitamin C, Ganoderma lucidum, also known as reishi, and colostrum. There's literally PubMed studies on all those things with this particular virus showing effectiveness. And so, Dr. Serge, when I read an article about all the things that could help, and I'll tell two things about that. When I put it on Facebook, the fact checkers pulled it down. I said, you're fact checking PubMed, a peer-reviewed journal. How's that possible?
Wow, it's getting out of control for sure. It's getting ridiculous, actually. Because we talk about science. I mean, I was banned for 30 days, as you know, because I actually put a study against the virus, a cure, right? And I got banned for 30 days. And you have the same experience, and many other people have the same experience. There's many, many ways to support. Listen, the virus is not as bad as the flu, right? Some people compare it as the flu. Some people say it's a bit worse than the flu. So what's your take on this?
Well, if you are healthy, it's like a flu. And I tell people when I read about convalescent plasma, it was my goal to get it. So I would visit extreme COVID patients. I would give them a hug, and just doing my best to get it. It took me several months of doing that to get it. And then I self-quarantined for, whatever it was, the 2 weeks. And guess what? Completely done with it. And I've hugged many COVID patients since. And I've got to tell you, for many of them, it was the most welcome hug they ever had because they thought it was almost something like leprosy. Don't come near me. You're going to be permanently damaged. No, I'm permanently immune. Let's share a little human interaction, some love, some wisdom, some good remedies, and let's see where this goes. And by the way, in all those cases, it went in a really good place. Total resolution.
It's always the case when you trust the innate healing ability of the body. That's just what it is. And I was looking at the effectiveness of the gene therapy, right? Those injections. And it's pretty low. After a few months, it goes back to, I read 1%, I read 40%. And then when you look at the natural immunity, it's like 12 months later, 13 months later, 18 months later, you still have the antibodies. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Supporting the immune system.
Well, I love there was a PhD immunologist that came out and said, let's say that I was the most wanted person, in the post office, right? That was the notorious criminal. And they decided that in order to help people find me, they would just take a picture of my nose. Forget about everything else. All they have is my nose. And they say, if you see this, get this person. And they said that's about a percentage of the virus, that spike protein that they're actually identifying. But I asked the question, okay, if you wanted to create immunity to the spike protein, why not just inject the spike protein? Why not? That'll create an immune response. It's a foreign protein in the system.
Yeah.
But instead, they injected genetic instructions that turned your cells into spike protein factories, which appears to have a great amount of variability in between. Is it deadly to some? Well, 15,000 people so far died within 3 days. I know of 6 people that died after 3 days, but between 2 and 6 weeks. 3 of them were in their mid-20s. 1 was early 30s. And they basically would have had no risk of death from the actual virus. And I have seen numerous patients, we run the numbers, that have developed severe autoimmunity since, but didn't have it before. But it makes perfect sense. Your immune system is supposed to attack sick cells. When you have that many cells making spike proteins, that's a sick cell. The immune system says, go get it, kill that cell.
Yeah. Well, I'm really sad to hear that. Those people will have a life and will be with us today if it wasn't of the medical tyranny going on. I've been following Australia for quite some time because it's pretty intense what's going on. I don't know if you knew this, but they shut down again a few weeks ago over 1 death that happened this year from the virus. And now there's hundreds and hundreds of people dying from side effects of the gene therapy. So what's going on? It's crazy.
Well, it is. It's beyond crazy. It's criminally insane. But if you track it back, Australia was a big part of the planning for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Canada, UK, US. The wild card was if Hillary Clinton was in 2016, God only knows where we'd be. Much, 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 much worse off. Picture what's happened in the last 10 months.
Yeah.
Those are decades of destruction. They're trying to make up for lost time, right? They really wanted to start that destruction in 2016.
Yeah.
And it's very indisputable if you have your eyes open. So the people need to stand together there, especially. I have plenty of friends in Australia, plenty of health conscious friends, and they say, we're not falling for this. There's just no way we're falling for this. But we need to lead the way here. We are supposedly the leaders of the free world.
Yeah.
But we're not acting like it.
We are not, and that's the concern, right? I think they have been making us a bit dumb over the years, with the fluoride, the chemicals, the diet, the Roundup, and so on. But one thing that is really scary to me, it's fear, right? Fear is so predominant in our social media, and fear is known to affect your body. And you brought it up last time, I believe. We've known now that the neuroendocrine system is connected to our gut, the immune system, so the brain, the gut connection. And fear is one of the main things actually they use to suppress our immunity against pathogens. So what can we do to strengthen our gut, our immune system, and handle this fear in our life?
For years I've taught about detoxification, and the number one rule to detox is to separate yourself from the toxic source. So just don't have anything to do with this obviously fake news with the purpose of fear-mongering. Just completely stay away from it. And, there's a quote that I used last year quite a bit. Tough times don't last, tough people do. And, it's time to toughen up. And so there was a military doctor, medical doctor, Lee Merritt, brilliant woman, long career. And she says, it's very simple. A big part of this plan has been psychological warfare.
Yeah.
And the game plan was to scare people into doing things that they typically wouldn't do to drive an agenda that they have. And that seems to be evolving. And let's just say it's not a noble agenda. It's not about saving lives. It's not about making people better. It's about something very sinister.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw in the news, I saw it this morning, the yellow star is back in Germany. History repeats itself.
What is the yellow star?
Back in the days, they will identify the Jews actually with the yellow star. So they will label them. So in Germany right now, if you didn't get the therapy, or if you got the therapy, you have the star. So they identify and try to divide people who got it, who didn't get it. Again, it comes to psychological warfare, like you said, the division that is so high right now across the planet, I guess.
Well, there's a Dr. Fleming who is a medical doctor, a PhD researcher, and an attorney, and he'll be the expert witness. His book is entitled COVID-19 as a Bioweapon.
Wow.
And he says the fingerprints on the leaders go back 2 decades. You can trace who's been on it for that period of time. But ultimately, he said this. He said, if you ever wondered how you would have responded in Nazi Germany, now you know. You know, are you going with the crowd? Are you being, you know, essentially bribed, coerced into damaging humans, in many cases irreparably, it doesn't take much to know better. It really doesn't. The data is so obviously overwhelming. All you need to do is take one eye open look for a matter of seconds and you say, oh, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So,
You're right. And on top of that, lately, you know this as well, there's a lot of whistleblowers that came out from different companies, from different organizations, from the government, just sounding the alarm. Something doesn't make sense here.
Well, the only thing that makes sense is there's a sinister plot that they don't mind what they need to do to forward it.
Yeah, you're right. So, Dr. Bob, it's been 30 minutes. So, as a last word, what would you say to encourage us and give us some hope?
Well, there's nothing but hope. You know, you are in charge of your physiology. I have infinite faith in human bodies to recover from even extreme circumstances. And by the way, this military strategist said, you know, if their goal was to kill all of us, that'd be easy. You know, they wouldn't have to shoot anybody with a needle. They could go with much bigger weapons. So that's not the goal. But whatever their goal is, we know it's not noble. So stay away from that. Stay healthy. Stay around the healthy crowd. Stay around people that want to make the world better. Stay around people that want to enhance freedom. Eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right. Plug in with Dr. Serge as often as you can. You know, you're a man among men. I appreciate you.
Thank you for the kind words, and I appreciate what you do as well. You've been in this field for so many decades. Thank you for everything you do, and thank you for your time. I know you're a busy person. We'll talk again next month.
I'll look forward to it.
I'm so excited. Thank you again, and God bless you.